Welcome to our first meeting of the summer. Happy summer, everyone. I love the summer. Summer's always a little different in our world, so it's not the same as exciting as spring. These mothers are all off with their children and Disneyland and vacations and things. So inner city is different from the suburbs. And we're going to see and talk about how sales are impacted a little bit over the summer. So today we're going to talk about sales. We're going to talk about the contract group changes one more time, have a little clarity there, and we're going to talk about your summer plan and our summer plan. That's our basic gist today. On our calendar, this Saturday is the Heights Fun Run. If you've never participated, it's a lot of fun. We close the boulevard down. It's the only time throughout the year that we shut the boulevard down. We provided notices to all the residents on Heights Boulevard over the weekend. We shut the boulevard down basically from about 7 a.m. until about 11 a.m. You can get across at 20th Street and you can get across at the feeder road, but you can't cross at 16th Street here. If you're trying to get here at 8 o'clock in the morning from the Studewood section, you're going to have to go all the way down to the feeder road, all the way up to 20 and cross back over and this way. So we are a corporate sponsor of the Fun Run. It's a lot of fun. It's just 5K, so it's a little 3-mile run. And we had 10 spots that I had already prepaid for. If you're interested in running in the Fun Run, let us know or whatever. And I think we've got 3 more spots of people. It is a sanctioned race. We average about 1,200 people at this race typically. And there's a children's race, so most people are lollygagging and walking wherever. There are water stations set up at 16th and 11th and 5th, and so, but it's really a lot of fun. It's a fun event. In addition to Boulevard Realty being a sponsor for the Heights Association for this, Bell Heights also has a tent, and we're going to be promoting Bell Heights, which is the Rowan Wright project that got us Donna in the first place, here at 18th and Ashland. And if you're interested in, come on in. I think there's a few more seats.
We need more copies of these questionnaires.
Of the questionnaires. Selena. Bill, scoot over. And Regina, sit there. There's beside Jerry. We're going to do some more questionnaires. Okay, so if anyone's interested in passing out bottles of water at the end, where everyone comes to the end back at Marmion Park here, then there are breakfast tacos and bananas and bagels and cheese and all kinds of people meeting and greeting and talking or whatever. It's really a lot of fun or whatever. The thing is, it starts relatively early, so we need people volunteers around 7 in the morning. The race starts at 8, over by for some people at 8:12. Some people like to last until about 9 o'clock. I'm going to try and run fast myself. I've been doing a little training. I'm not a fast runner, but I'm going to try and run fast and see how fast, if I can beat my 8-minute miles for the little race there. But most people lollygag around. But if you're interested in running, let me know. If you're interested in working at the tent, let me know. We have some more Boulevard Realty shirts. If everyone wants to wear shirts or whatever, it should be a fun event. Also, soon going to announce that we have rented, what day? June 19th? Thursday, June 19th, I have rented the Beer House.
Beer Can House.
The Beer Can House. If you've never been to Malone, which is kind of by Memorial Drive and Dietering over there, Beer Can House is kind of this funky artist thing that the Orange Show Foundation purchased after the original owner passed away. It literally is a house, an old bungalow wrapped in beer cans. And we're going to have this party there.
What time?
It's from 6 to 8 on Thursday, June 19th. It's just kind of a client appreciation summertime party. So we'll have a wide variety of different beers going on. Should be a lot of fun. There will be tours of the Beer Can House, so they'll have docents there.
What time?
6 o'clock, from 6 to 8. Here we'll be working on the invitation that'll be going out. It'll be coming out shortly. So those are our kind of.
Eric, can we get that pretty soon?
We are going to work on it today. It'll be coming out later today. A draft will come out later today in our spare time. The thing about summer too, remember it's the time when the office goes on more vacation. I'm going to go on more vacations. Andrew and Lorna, everyone's going to go on vacations, and you're going to go on vacations. The key about vacations is Phyllis Gladys just went on a deal. She took all of her listings, she came and met me, gave me all of her files. We transferred all of her listings over to my name, so the realtor would call me so she could enjoy her cruise over there. And there was a seamless transition for us dealing with her client base and her sellers. And that's That's how I want you to handle it. If you're going to be gone for 3 days, and people call here 15 times looking for you, and you're floating down the Frio River without your phone, which is what you should be doing,
Right.
okay? You just need to let us know so that we can help you, so that we can have a stress-free environment over here. Knowledge is power, so give us the information so that we can help you while you're on your vacation. And then recognize that Sandra's going to go on vacation, and that's why we try and turn the files in 2 days after the option period, not 2 hours before the closing,
Right.
so that we can kick out the CDAs in advance there. So you'll try and pay attention to the package, and it will show when we're on vacation and when we're gone, so that you have to know what's going on. Should be fine. Okay, let's talk about contract changes. Contract changes went into effect June 1 again. Let's come back to this. And we've talked about this before, so they're up. They've already updated to zip forms, but I see a new problem that we never really thoroughly discussed. In the contracts on 6A here for the title policy, I'm going to try and explain this several times so that it's not confusing, but it's very confusing, okay? You used to, always standard, you had the ability in the title policy, when your clients got the title commitment, they had an option for the buyer to have been able to purchase area and boundary coverage and parties in possession coverage. These were additional options that are always have been available, they're still available, they still show up in the title commitment or whatever. What these things are, in effect, is that if you want the title company to guarantee the survey, or if there's a problem with the legal description and you want the title company to guarantee that the legal description is a certain size, the buyer typically has had the right to purchase that as a part of their title policy for what is 5% of the owner's title policy. That was the cost of it, okay? Same way, with rights in possession, it was guaranteeing that the title company went to the property and that there were no homeless people living there and that the seller had the ability to transfer the property over to the buyer, that there was no, they had the right of possession. Okay? They still have those sort of options. It's in the title commitment, it's always been there. But what they've added to these lines in the standard language now is that now we're going to check the little box that you're going to want this coverage or not, and who's going to pay for it. Okay? Here, it's always been a buyer's choice and a buyer's fee. It's always been a buyer's fee. Okay? But now I can tell you that everyone's going to check that the sellers is going to pay this. Okay? So we're going to be in arguments because you're going to get to the end and there's going to be this new 5% fee of the title policy. So if it's $800,000 house, title policy is $5,000. You got a new $250 fee over here because someone checked a box and no one paid attention to what was going on there. Whatever the box says is what's going to happen at closing. You need to be able to explain it to whatever side is going there. If you represent the seller, you need to be able to explain it if you represent the buyer. The other agents, when they submit an offer to you on your listing, are going to check that the seller is going to pay for it. Just rest assured that they're going to do it. You're going to send it right back to them and say, this is typically a buyer's expense and should be maintained by the buyer, and the seller's not going to pay for it. That's what you're going to probably tell them. Okay? Because why would the seller want to pay for this? Okay. But I need to explain it better to you than that. Okay? Because it gets more and more complicated of what it's really covering. No real estate agents really understand this. Okay?
Right.
So if you get this survey over here that I just handed you, which is the corner of Heights Boulevard and 11th Street. It's a chiropractic office that I'm listing and selling over here. And you see that this lot's 50 by 150 over here. And there's some encroachments over here. I just randomly picked one. So they have a building, metal building, and it's over a foot into the alley there. Okay? This is an encroachment. The building is beyond the property over there. And you would think that if you checked one of these little boxes, that the title company was going to be able to do something about that. And there is not crap the title company can do about that. the city of Houston owns that alley, and if the city of Houston wants to plow back there and give them a notice to remove their building because they're going to repave or redo the utilities back there, it doesn't matter what kind of coverage you have on earth, it wouldn't make any difference. The city of Houston's still going to go down there and plow down the building if they want to. They have the right to. It's a building that someone purchased and put illegally into the city's right-of-way. So it wouldn't matter if we had checked that the buyer had this coverage and the seller paid for it, right? Wouldn't matter. That's not what it's covering over here, okay? So it's not covering existing encroachments at all. Listen to what I'm saying. Doesn't cover anything that's disclosed over here. If it's on the survey and there's 5 encroachments, your next door neighbor's fence is over here and the overhang's over there and all that sort of stuff, what the coverage is covering is what's not disclosed on the survey. They're only covering things that are not disclosed on the survey. So that if, remember, the next door neighbor does a survey and they figure out that the fence is now 2 feet over into the property line, the title company now will have to do something about it if you had this coverage, okay? I don't know what the hell they're going to do about it, buy their way out of it, because there's nothing they can really do. Just like the survey. If the survey says you have 6,000 square feet, and another survey says you have 5,700 square feet, what are they going to do about it? Except write you a check to compensate you for what is the loss there. Okay, so the coverage, discrepancies, conflicts, shortages, encroachments, protrusions, overlapping improvements, it's talking about those that are not disclosed on a survey. One more reason, make the buyer buy a survey in every scenario. Don't even contemplate any other option other than making the buyer buy the survey. And then if the buyer wants additional insurance to make sure that there are no additional encroachments that might come up 5 years later, then they have the right to buy this coverage for an additional 5% of the owner's title policy. Okay? That's how that's going to work. Now, here's the next problem. Where it keeps talking about all these shortages in area or boundary, the title companies, regulated by the State Board of Insurance, are prohibited by law in a Supreme Court judgment for paying for that in the first place, okay? So it may say that the title company is going to cover the shortages in area and boundary coverage, but they don't, okay? The only area that would ever cover is in commercial properties and rural ranch properties that are meets and bounds, and there's no survey, okay? It's the only scenario that they might cover this sort of deal. So it's not going to cover the shortages and boundaries of 99.9% of any transaction that you have in the first place. Okay? The other agents, Realty Associates, Keller Williams, they're not going to understand it. I'm telling you. They're not going to get it. They're going to say it's going to protect their buyer, that it really is 6,600 square feet. And I'm telling you, it doesn't do that. That's not, I know what it says, but it doesn't do that. Think of it this way. And this I have to explain. If in special provisions they write that Bill Baldwin will clean the house for the next 5 years after closing, am I obligated to clean the house just because they write in special provisions?
No.
No, I'm not a party to that contract. I'm not obligated by anything that they write in special provisions. Whatever seller and buyer might be. You can't make the title company do something that they're prohibited by law from doing in the first place. Okay? Doesn't matter what it says. I explained to John yesterday. You can drive down Heights Boulevard. I don't know if there's a speed limit sign over there or not, but you know there's a speed limit, right? Sure. There is one. I don't know what it is, but there's a speed limit. You can't drive 90 down Heights Boulevard. If there's a speed limit sign or not, there's not one, but there's a speed limit. The same thing applies to these sections over here. I don't think they should have put this in the contract. This was always in the title commitment. It was always something that I could explain easier. Now, when people are going to start talking about the money and who's paying for it, it's going to be confusing for a while over here, okay? I want to back up and make sure that we understand it, because I'm not going to leave this paragraph until we understand what's going on over here and what it's really doing, okay? So, it's additional insurance that the title company will offer a buyer at some expense, the buyers or the sellers. If something comes up post-closing, you can buy this coverage up to the time of closing, because it's covering the period backwards in the event that there's a conflict or deal. Here's another typical scenario. I've got all those houses on Omar that I sold, and when they were 3 feet on either side, and then when the air conditioning requirements increased, and now we had to have 14 SEER air conditionings versus 10 SEER air conditionings, the air conditioners don't fit in 3 feet anymore, where they were before. So you have to replace it. Now I've got a 4-foot air conditioner and you own 3 feet. So we have boundary line agreements between all the property owners, typical in townhouse developments, typical in these sort of scenarios, that says, I understand my air conditioner is going to be over your property, and your air conditioner is going to be over my property, and we each maintain our own 3 feet. Okay? And that's recorded at the courthouse. Okay? It's a typical boundary line agreement that's filed all the time in HOAs, in townhouse developments, in a lot of houses. Typically, we've had fence issues that have come up, and you sign this little deal that says, I understand the fence is here, but I understand I don't own where the fence is. I only own where my property is. But it's an agreement. It's recorded. It shows up at the title commitment. It shows up at the courthouse. So it's talking about these items that are recorded at the courthouse only. It's not Grandpa and Grandma's agreement that they had that the pecan tree is the new line over there. That's not recorded anywhere, so it wouldn't, that conflict would not be covered under this coverage. It's where you have the boundary line agreement, and they've never filed the boundary line agreement, okay? So that you think there's a boundary line agreement. Dusty has one. We're in a little lawsuit over here at 5th and Arlington, because the first buyer bought it. They had a boundary line agreement that the builder created that said the same thing about the air conditioners and the fences. They sold it to person 1, who sold it to person 2, who told buyer 2 that there was a boundary line agreement. Buyer 3 comes along, says, well shit, nothing's filed at the courthouse, there's nothing there. And he goes and moves the stuff. Well, the people next door said there was a boundary line agreement. And if it's not filed, it's not filed over there. Okay? It's not a record. It's just an agreement over there that someone had. Maybe the first people had the agreement, but that didn't bind the second people or the third people over there. It's a gray area how that works. But if it's not recorded, it's not recorded. So these are the kind of discrepancies and conflicts and encroachments that they're talking about. Mm-hmm.
So, should we assume that due to the density inside the loop, that we should suggest to our buyers that they should ask for this?
No. In a normal lot and block, it's not necessary. If you're buying rural ranch property on Canyon Road, and it's 17.76 acres, because when they platted it, it took the middle of the river, and the river changed in the drought and came over, and now when they get 6 inches of water, the river shifted, and we don't know where the real property line is. Well, yes, I definitely think you should get that. Okay? But if you're buying lot 1 or block 2, Baldwin Annex off of 18th Street, I don't think it's necessary.
So if you check buyer, it's an agreement between seller and buyer. If buyer decides not to get this, he can still tell the title company, I don't want this extra expense.
Yes,
This
you can.
is buyer's
Sure you can.
coverages.
Sure you
It
can.
just
It's a
gives
buyer's coverage.
Right.
privilege.
It's a buyer's coverage,
Right. And if
right?
you
We're
understand-
conveying at closing,
Yes.
the title policy.
You got seller's
It's
coverage.
going to be
and
totally
buyer's.
confusing when
Right.
the buyer is paying for the title policy in these
Right.
builder deals,
Yeah,
you know.
right, yeah.
But we got over here that the seller's going to pay for this coverage, which is just going to be calculated at 5% of the owner's title policy. You know, but
It's just more money.
it's just a money issue at some point. Okay, it's just a money issue. The issue is going to be, we're going to get these contracts from the other agents, and it's going to have that you are going to cover it, and the seller is going to pay for this. Okay, and we're going to be in the fight with the realtors who are not going to understand what the coverage is. It was an optional coverage, always been in the title policy, it's always been a standard industry package policy that the buyer had this option to buy this coverage, and they still have the option.
Right.
Why they would want the seller to pay for it, I wouldn't understand. Seller's not paying for their appraisal,
Future
seller's not
use.
paying for their inspections, seller's not paying for this. This is an additional coverage, but we're going to be in a fight. We're just going to be in a fight here for a few months until it pans itself out, and then hopefully the big guys, the Martha Turner, John Daughters, and Greenwood Kings, will be consistent about how it's going to work. It's like these surveys. I mean, when they switched all these surveys, 98% of the people come that we're going to give them the old survey, or the seller's going to pay for these surveys. I mean, that's just what happened. You know, and when you explain why you would want the buyer to buy their own survey, it makes common sense that the buyer's going to buy their own survey. But it took us about a year of explaining it to all the other agents, but it's fairly standard today.
So do we recommend that they buy this optional No.
it's not needed.
It's right, Jan?
No, I'm just trying to figure out, how is this?
If you
This
buy
would
a
cover
commercial building,
encroachment, but it would cover something that's already in existence at the time you buy it.
that's not disclosed to any
Not
party.
disclosed, but
That's
it's
not
not a
disclosed.
future.
That's
So how
right.
is that, if you buy a survey, how is that over and above the
Right.
surveyor's errors and omissions?
It's hardly, it's duplication.
Okay.
It's just a duplicate. It's one more person you can go back to get the money. It's when you buy a lot in Cinco Ranch and you get a survey and it doesn't show the utility easement, and surveyors had that. But then Harris County Flood Control District had come in 6 months before and then created this barrier. Now you can't put the swimming pool where Harris County Flood Control District says you can't, and it wasn't disclosed to anyone. Yeah, you're gonna go after the surveyor, hopefully if you bought a survey. And B, you would have this additional coverage that, yeah, maybe they'll compensate you $80,000 for the swimming pool that you didn't get to build.
Now, I tell the buyers they have to buy the survey so they're protected. What-
Yes.
they will
What's the
defend it.
argument if they bring that up?
They can't
Are they-
defend it if it's not, if they don't own it.
It's additional coverage that they can buy. They can upgrade their home warranty. They can buy extended coverage for their lawnmower if they want to, but is it cost effective to do it or whatever? It's generally not necessary in a normal residential transaction. If you're buying a commercial tract of land and you want a redevelopment, you're buying Pennzoil Tower over there, the Transco Tower, well, yeah, I think you're probably gonna want some of this stuff because you don't really know what the hell's going on with aerial easements and all that sort of stuff where it might get very complicated if you own 40 feet down below the ground or not. I don't really know in those commercial deals, but in a normal residential real estate transaction, you would not need.
But like meets and bounds.
Meets and
can
bounds
be
you would
2
need.
pages
Meets
in
and
the
bounds would be your
description.
first little deal, which some of these townhouses are meets and
Yeah,
bounds.
yeah.
And so the first time it may be a little complicated or whatever. So I mean, meets and bounds would be a little flag that you might contemplate it because it gets very confusing.
What's the number?
On our
that?
Nadines over there that we have,
Right.
okay? The Nadines, when he bought them, they didn't use the right legal description. When Bill Jordan bought from whatever entity Tim Leopard put together, we will go and they replat over there, and they don't have the right legal descriptions on the plat. Now, smart enough to figure it out, I can file a correction deed and get it all worked out beforehand, before we sell to the next guy. So it's not like we don't fix things all the time, but it is one of those things, it's easy to get these properties screwed up a little bit. Normal lot block you wouldn't need.
What's the number on the title policy? Is it T19? What is it that they put on the title policy, the title company? Because if you go back and you look at every single title policy, I guarantee you they have this on there. They just don't know they're getting
Always
it.
been.
Yes,
It's
it's
always
always
been
been
there.
in there. It's standard. It comes from the state of Texas. It's a disclosure. It's in
Absolutely.
every title commitment. I gave you a copy of it. It's right here. It's in the title
It's
commitment.
there, we just never read it.
You just never read it. And they
Some
don't know
buyers
we're paying
read it.
extra for it.
Cynthia's clients always seem to buy it. I always seem to read it, and then I ask these questions about whether or not this is necessary. I've had this conversation 30 times with her. It's always been an option. It is still an option. It was never in the contract. It was just an option that the buyer had at the time. This is a profit center for title companies. You understand?
But if you
This
go
is
back
a
and
profit
look at
center.
their, if you go back and look at their
It's
closing
like
statement, I
buying
guarantee
a
it's T19. It doesn't include
Well,
whatever else is on there. That's it.
Well,
It's there.
That's the whole thing.
I hope they take this out. I hope they just remove this. It's gonna be so confusing to people, and the realtors are gonna get mad because at the end, we're gonna end up paying this 5% at the closing because the seller doesn't wanna pay it, the buyer doesn't wanna pay it, and the realtor didn't explain it right in the first place.
What's the best way to fill it out now?
Will,
Yeah,
Will
will not.
not, will not.
will not.
So if you check will not, you don't even have to check the other, but if you do, buyer, buyer, buyer. It's a buyer expense.
Okay.
This is a buyer's option. This is a buyer's additional coverage or whatever.
Some people want a warranty, a service warranty, if they buy a camera, if they buy anything, irregardless, they don't care, they just want it, and that's what that is. It's not
So,
honest.
yeah, Sandra, our advice is that they check will not and then buyer, okay? And we need to point it out to me if they don't do that for a while. Okay?
Can you please have, I think for new agents and even for us older agents with contract changes, would you please put a template of how you'd like to see a seller, if you're representing the seller,
Yeah.
or if you're representing the buyer,
Mhm.
what you would like to see,
Yes.
that typically would
It's
be
a
the
good-
best way to
Good idea.
protect
You can use some of
all
mine.
the addendum. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because even on a list the other day, there were some questions that if we
Right.
had had a template for the agents,
Okay.
it would really be helpful.
Okay. We got paragraph 6A8. Any confusion? Everybody understand what we're doing over here? Can you explain it to your buyer?
Yes.
This is optional coverage, it's always been available from the title company. It's ensuring discrepancies and conflicts not disclosed at the courthouse or on the title commitment or in a survey already that might arise later. It's an optional deal, not typical things that would show up in normal residential real estate or whatever. It does not cover whether or not there are, if there's an encroachment, it's not doing anything about those encroachments. It's not solving any problem. It's only insurance for things that were not disclosed, that were a public record at the time of closing, okay? So the title company's gonna take your 5%, they're gonna go on over there, and they're gonna look at the examiner's gonna go look on the legal description one more time, say, now that ain't shit over there, this is insurance, I'll just cover it with the insurance, whatever, because it's not saying there's not any discrepancies, conflicts. If your next door neighbor's filed a lawsuit against you, that's a conflict that shows up as the cloud of title over there. That's a conflict that's of record that they would be insuring around. They're not saying that, I mean, they find ways not to cover things,
It's a money
right?
thing.
It's a money thing. Yes, Ryland?
So, let me get this straight. So, from the Texas Department of Insurance, they are not, I just want to make sure.
They are not
the
going to
area-
guarantee the shortages in area and boundary
Just,
in a transaction
encroachments.
where you have a survey that
Right.
shows there's a certain amount of
Right.
land. That's not what they're guaranteeing.
Right. So
They're
they
gonna
can't do
guarantee that meets and bounds, and they're gonna go out and recalculate one more time. If it says, this 5-page legal description, they say it's
Right.
7.765 acres, they're gonna guarantee that. That's what, so yes, in that transaction, if you don't have a survey, then yes, I would think that would probably be good due diligence.
right. But they won't do it here, like, I mean, just, I want to make sure I'm telling them yes to the future encroachments that we did not know about on the survey, but no to the area and boundary.
That's
Correct? Okay.
It, HCAD says a lot is 50 by 120.
Like, that's in
Survey
North
says
Main.
it's 50 by 120. And 3 years later it comes back that it's really not 50 by 120, it's 50 by 107.
Yeah,
It didn't cover anything.
right, like that thing
They
on
didn't-
North Main.
Yes, all the time.
And it doesn't buy you, or go pay the seller what you owe them,
No.
you know, any difference.
That's right.
It doesn't cover anything.
Now, if you check will not, why do you have to check buyer
You
or
do not
seller?
have to.
Don't check
You do
anything.
not have to. You don't have to.
Just
But
will
just to
not.
be safe, because they're gonna send it to us with the little boxes, it's a buyer's expense. Okay? All right. We're gonna move on out of this. All right, go back to the summary. These contracts are available on HAR. You can click on the little deal and it has all the red lines one more time there. So on HAR, they've got them easily for you to find. I didn't print them all out for you again here. Here is a little summary of these changes one more time. We're going to email this to you because you had to be a broker at TAR to get this little summary. There's nothing that we haven't really already discussed that made much difference over here, okay? You got an extra day in the option period, now you got 3 days versus 2 days. You've got, when we had conflicts and it would talk about 15 days for an extension for the title commitment or unresolved issues, it's now modified the wording to say 15 days or 3 days before closing. Trying to tighten up this little deal, it's not automatically 15 days every time there. You know, so it's tightening up some, we talked about all this propane stuff. If you're selling a mobile home park, please get me involved. Okay? But most of this other stuff is really, we're not doing a lot of reverse mortgages. I don't really think it applies too much. The biggest thing it talked about, as we mentioned earlier meeting, was giving you the ability to have 3 days to get the option period received versus 2 days. Okay?
What about mediation?
Mediation, it was automatic anyway, so they've just taken it out where it is automatic. I mean, it was automatic. It's non-binding mediation. They can't require you to agree to the mediation, but the court system's so backlogged, they were gonna send us to mediation. So they've taken that out anyway. So we're gonna email this to you, but I have gone over it twice before, so. Any issues about all that? Okay. Very good. We did have, if you just want to know what the 5% cost is, they always keep these little charts here about the title policy. These are updated. These fees are set by the state of Texas. And so if you want to know what the 5% is, this is showing you the title policy. I left them out, but they're usually sitting right over here in the bar area. Okay, let's talk about sales for a moment. We can get out of this and go back to sales. On the summer months, you must realize most of us are geared to inner city living. And if you look, I try to explain, the high points for sales in our markets really are the spring months and the fall months. So theoretically, the number of sales, often they're behind because of the contracts, they decline in the summer. They're going down. They go down after the summer. It's not a peak period of time. March, April, May, busiest peak season. You get under contract. Close 30 or 45 days later, the closed sales show up 30 days later, but it's telling you that the busiest months are March and April. They are March and April and May. This is the high, and so there is a slowdown, and this is the greater Houston area. If I did this, because I just picked Houston, if I picked a zip code, if I picked, 009 or area 9 or something, now, the Woodlands is a little bit different. Some of Cinco Ranch is a little bit different. I'm talking about the townhouse market, the land market, the single family housing market, the high-end housing market tends to slow down. If you're the senior vice president at Vincent and Elkins, you go on vacation with your wife to Europe or the Hamptons in July, right? You're not sitting here looking at a house in 105 degrees, okay? You're the junior partner at Vincent and Elkins who got hired in October or March. You're working your ass off in the summer because the senior partner is in the Hamptons or in Europe, right? So you don't have time to go buy a house. You have time to buy a house in October when you pass the bar and your new job doesn't start till January, or in the spring where you just passed the bar and you got your commitment letter and you're going to start on June 1 and you go try and buy a house and you use someone like Taft who will let you close before they actually start their job, okay? So our market is geared to this sort of deal. Now, the fact of the matter is, 2014, the number of sales are going to be greater this summer than they were last summer because the market's stronger than it is. And the phenomenon is probably not going to be any more transactions. It's just the value of what we're selling is significantly higher. Realtors get a raise all the time when you sell $1.2 million houses that used to be $800,000. The 3% rule works just fine in a rising price market or whatever. So the summer tends to be a little slower. 105 degrees outside there. It's not as fun to look at houses. Bungalows are hard as hell to show. Try a little new construction walking in July or whatever. I change shirts about 5 times in the summer or whatever because, look, I'm sweating my ass off over there showing 3-story townhouses that are not air conditioned. You can only do so many. You can't speak by the time you get to your next client over there. You run, take a shower right quick, and change shirts. And so I just want you to be aware of that because the fall is the next best time. So the summer is this period of time that I think you gotta stop, reflect a moment, and figure out what you're doing. Thus, we have our little questionnaire we're going to talk about today. Okay? So we're going to email this out to the individuals that weren't here today, but I want you to seriously think about filling this out and forwarding it back to me and spending some time in June talking to me individually about what you're doing. Okay? You got to reevaluate. And sometimes just a little questionnaire makes you put it on paper. How are you doing? What have you sold so far this year? What did you do last year at this point in life? What was your projection for the year, and are you on track or not? Some people are on track or not. And so you need to think about that. Then you need to look, where is your business coming from? Where is it coming from, really? Where are you really only selling to your friends? Are you picking stuff up at open houses? Are you picking people up from where are you getting the people? And that will help us evaluate, are you going to get more from that arena, or do we need to figure out a way to get some from another arena. If we're not getting enough from open houses, well, we need to work on a new plan there. Which gets us to what I think you should be doing. And I think you should be doing some of networking. I think you have to get your butt up and go to work every day. Can't lounge around in your boxer shorts and expect to pop in at 5 o'clock in the afternoon for happy hour and sell any houses. It won't work that way. Are you really advertising anywhere? Did you run one ad in 2014 anywhere? Just to put in a listing packet somewhere with your face on a house or on an advertisement somewhere. Did you do it or not? And outside of the advertising, so I bought an ad in 002, did I market myself? Did I have a Facebook page? Did I host a new home buyer survey? Did I do a mail out to recent Rice graduates? Or what are you doing? What are you doing to market to whatever it is your sphere of influence is? If you're a teacher, did I do something for the teacher industry? Did I do something for the legal industry? Did I do something for the oil and gas industry? So what are you doing over there in order to work on the next phase of your business? So I want to know what you're doing. And if you didn't have any money, didn't do any marketing, what were you really doing about what classes did you take? What did you study so far in 2014? And what did you do to prepare yourself? Are you going to I want to work in Memorial and Tanglewood and River Oaks, which means I have to go to broker open houses over there at River Oaks and Memorial and Tanglewood. I got to get the email flyers and see what open houses are going to be there on Wednesday and Thursday. And I got to go over there and hobnob with Hedley Carpus and Laura Sweeney and some of those people. If that's what I want to do, and that's what I want to sell my listings, I have a fair amount of high-end listings that are coming on at the end of the year. I need to go market so that those people know me and want to spend time with me and will know who I am when I list a house for $4.5 million, that I'm not just some fly-by-night kind of guy. So I'm intentionally branding myself over that way so that the A.J. Ross guy calls me up and says, have you seen my Inwood house? I want those people to call me. I want them to call me because I want to be known as someone who has a fighting chance of selling that $6 million house. Okay? That's where I'm branding myself. I'm not branding myself to the townhouse community. I'm not branding myself to Cinco Ranch. I'm branding myself to high-end buyers in Memorial and River Oaks and Tanglewood. Trying not to lose what I had in the Heights, but yeah, I'm probably willing to give up the $350,000 buyer in the Heights and sell a $4.5 million house on Terrace or Huckleberry. I'm willing to do that at this point in my career. You got to go figure out what you're doing. That's the point of this. What are you doing to educate yourself? What are you doing to promote yourself? What are you doing there? So, also then it's, what can I do better? Can I get my butt to work a little bit sooner? Can I go to some more broker open houses? Can I host 2 open houses a month, whatever? So then, literally, again, how much have you spent in advertising? What have you done? That's a tangible deal. If you're in real estate, you must invest in something. So what tangible have you done? And what is my plan for the summer? What am I going to do over here? I'm going to kickstart myself, and I'm going to lose 5 more pounds, and I'm going to drink less in June, okay? And because I'm going to do that, I'm going to feel better about myself, and I'm going to work on trying to educate and hold more educational classes for agents at Boulevard Realty in the summer. That's my summer plan. I'm going to vacation a little bit, I'm going to drink a little less, I'm going to run a little bit more, and I'm going to work on educating. There's my plan. I've shared mine.
Don't lose 5 pounds.
Yeah, right. No more weight.
See?
I'm losing this damn thing. I may have blood pressure. Doesn't matter. I have a plan.
You want to see a guy?
I'm gonna
Then
ask
when we're-
Bill about 5 pounds.
Right, me too. I'm showing that to you.
Then with regards to what you're doing, remember I'm always trying to think about who are you branding yourself to? Who are you advertising to? Who are you marketing to? And are you marketing to potential clients, other agents, or gaining some experience that will help lay a foundation for what you're going to do over there in the fall? That's what I think you need to be thinking about over this next 3-month period that might have a lull if the phones don't ring as much. It's not like it's going to be a dismal time. The market's strong. So I'm just saying, theoretically, it's a little slower in July than it is in March and April and May. So take advantage of that slowdown and lay the foundation for a better fall season. I went on 3 listing appointments this last week. they're friends of mine, of course I have some relationships, and they can sell anytime, and we're telling them, just wait till the week after Labor Day to list. There's no point in listing your house if you don't really care, you don't really have anywhere to go. Let's don't list a high-end house when I think the market's already a little softer in the high-end market. I mentioned this the last time. So let's don't list today. Let me have a pocket listing. I can show it beforehand if they want to see it or whatever. But let's go put it on the MLS September 15th. Okay? That's what I told the modern house that's going to be $1.2 million on 8th Street. That's what I told them on yesterday. And so, because I think it's in their best interest. Let us bleed through some of the inventory. Let the comps get a little bit higher. And so the timing will be better for them anyway, so I think that's a very good plan. So I think you'll see, same thing. We pulled Parker Haven off, they're going to go tear out that courtyard, they're going to go put in a water fountain and some grass in an area that was all concrete, and the same thing. When would we put it back on? Get past Labor Day, get to the middle of September, try and capture the people in the fall. You can't sell a house with no grass where it's all concrete in June, July, and August. There was no point in continuing to try and do that. We've been doing it. Take it off, fix that problem, put it back on in the fall. I think you'll see that. I think you're going to see more of these things where it had gotten softer. I'm talking about the $350,000 range. I'm not talking about the dirt game. I'm just talking about in a particular market. You look at $1 million to $2 million houses in the Heights. We're selling about 2 a month. We got 25 on the market. That's a 10-month inventory. In an area that has a shortage of inventory, there's no shortage of multi-million-dollar houses at the high end. It's because everyone was unrealistic. The houses jumped from 900,000 to 1.4 million. Well, they didn't really jump that way. Everyone just read how great it was. So we need to be realistic about what some of these numbers are. And we're having to temper people into reality. Some people just want to test the market, but I think you can do yourself a disfavor by testing it too high. So I would like for you to think about the questionnaire. I'd like for you to try and fill it out. I'd like you to try and make an appointment to visit with me and see what we can't do to try and jumpstart. But I'm going to ask you these hard questions. I'm going to say, where the hell have you advertised in 2014? Show me your receipt for $350 that you did something. Because you got to do something. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm branding us. I'm doing IT Tuesdays. I'm educating us. You've got to do something. You got to show up. You got to advertise. You got to market. You got to take advantage of the beer can house and send out the e-bites to your friends. Send them out to your potential clients. Send them out to your lawyer and your hairdresser and your dog walker, because they know people who are going to want to buy and sell a house. You've got to do something. If you're too busy and you got more business than you can keep up with, keep on trucking. It's fine. But if you want to do a little bit more, we need an action plan on how to get there, I think. So, any questions about any of that? No? All good?
Bill, it's supposed to say improving my image with other agents.
Okay.
What does it say?
It says improving my agent with other
Oh.
agents.
That's your image. Yeah. I'm image branding.
Okay, yeah.
So I sold the house behind Laura Sweeney, who was the top agent the last 3 years. Shannon was my listing. She had sold that to the builder, but the builder, an agreement was that I was going to list it. Kind of upset her a little bit, but I tried to get along throughout the way. She reported 3 times that they were in violation of the deed restrictions over and over, hanging things. It's fine. Very, very, very nice to Laura. I do know her fairly well or whatever. But I got to know her better from that transaction. Lately, I have been showing very expensive houses in River Oaks, $8.5 and $10 million houses. Both of those listings were Laura's. We go, and she is even telling my clients that I am great with vision and how to fix some of these things. And when she had a question about how the roof was done and the structure, she was asking me questions about her $10 million listing or whatever, because I think she has the respect that I understand construction, I understand the cost of remodeling. This is John Eddy and Sheridan Williams' personal house. They've lived there from 1992. It's a lovely house or whatever. But yeah, the floors need to be redone, the walls need to be redone, the kitchen needs to be redone. It's an easy fix. The windows are single pane from 1992. And a $10 million house, probably want to fix that sort of thing, whatever. But I have intentionally, and we had a second showing again for that house. And there again, she is almost helping me by telling my client what a wealth of knowledge I am with regards to these type of houses we're talking about. And the door's on the side and I want to move the door to the front. If you look up Inverness, 3007 Inverness, the door doesn't want to be where it is. My clients don't like where the door is, but you know what? I have a vision. It's $10 million. Get $1 million reduction and spend $1 million and it'll be worth $15 million. It's fine. You got to have vision in the $10 million market just like you do in the duplex market or how you do in the little bungalow market. You got to have a vision for what it is that you're doing over there. But that's part of what I've been trying to do in my career is work on this sort of thing and brand myself so that Laura and them, when they want to come show a house in the Heights, they'll call and ask me my opinion about different houses. I get, like I say, plenty of appraisers on a regular basis ask my opinion about the value of things for builders who are getting construction loans on things. And sometimes I think that people are insane. I don't think they can get that or not. But it's, you're branding yourself to the appraisal world. If Brubaker and John Chapman and Paul Berger, they're calling me for advice, don't I have a better chance of getting the value of my properties adjusted with those appraisers? Sure you do. Sure you do. I branded myself into that arena. So, that's our lesson for today.
When's White Linen Night?
White Linen Night is the first Saturday in August, so it's the 4th?
No, I don't think it's a fourth, I think it's just.
Second or third?
Yeah, it was the fourth last year, yeah.
Second.
The first Saturday in August.
Are we gonna be at Bell Heights?
We are going to be at Bell Heights. We are having a huge event at Bell Heights in conjunction with kickoff at Bell Heights. Hopefully.
We are.
We are. By then, we definitely are. Email. What about email?
With air
So
conditioning?
everybody who uses a I'm sorry. So everybody who has a Your Boulevard account is probably experiencing issues even if you don't know it. So what's happening is that we far exceeded our storage on our current host server, and so we need to switch. We could get more space with them, but they don't have really good service. So we're just going to switch to Gmail. It's fast, easy, cheap,
Free.
effective.
Wasn't free, but it's cheaper.
Well, it's going to be
Yeah,
Google
cheap.
Apps for Business, so it's going to be a dedicated server just for our email account that we're buying from Google. We're going to do that today, and honestly, the best way to transition if you're using a Your Boulevard account is just to get on the phone with me. I'll give Tony the information we need,
It could be seamless though, right? They don't
it's going to be
necessarily-
seamless, yeah, but there's going to be some steps. It's going to be like a
Your
5-minute
point,
thing to
yeah.
switch it over. It's going to be really easy.
But it's still the same for your
Yes.
boulevard.
Same
Yes.
email address, same everything.
How-
It's going to be
I
so much more reliable.
It's gonna be jimyourboulevard.com, but it's really gonna go to Jim at
Same
your-
thing,
at
and it's going to be
gmail.com.
forwarded in the same way.
Just
If you want
pointing
to still
it.
use
Yeah.
your Yahoo account, if you want to still use, IMAP or something like that, then it's nothing in your world is going to change. You're just going to have to set aside 5 minutes for the actual transition. Okay. Cool. I'll let
So
you
the
know.
problem is with the your, because they're.
The problem is with our server.
I'm getting property notices from Friday.
Right, me too.
Well,
On my
we all did.
Gmail account.
Email
So it's
did.
like-
I know. It's
It
chemical.
was-
I'm very sorry.
We were at 80,000 emails on the server over here, and the capacity was just limited,
Okay.
and so we've had to switch over.
They're basically punishing us for using so much space,
Yeah.
and so they're holding onto our emails and sending them out at their own pace.
How many just shifted over? Mine, 40,000 just shifted over into mine.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have 40,000 emails, you should have.
I need those for reference points.
So it'll be fixed, and then we haven't lost any emails, so if you're getting them slowly, I'm very sorry about that, but nothing has gone lost to me either, okay? Everything's still there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it'll be much
Thank you.
easier. Anything? All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sign up for June 4th.
You doing all right? Doing good?